I'm really hyped up because today we're going to be listening to more first-person shooter music because we want to answer the question, do first-person shooters have good music? The answer, of course, is yes. Listen, I need to get you in here somehow. First up today is Call of Duty World at War, The Final Push. I actually just recently started playing this, and man, it feels good to be back in an old-school Call of Duty experience. Let's listen. Love that horn emphasis there. Holy crap. I love the horns basically laying on top of each other. There's a real oppressive feeling in there. I love the short violin rhythm in there as well. That cascading sound is so lovely. Oh wow, a surprise pullback there. It's like we stop all rhythm. Just the harp? Whoa. Fantastic lower brass there. You know what's really beautiful about that? You hear the final push in this music, right? There's such an essence of like, we have to keep moving. We are so close to overcoming this incredible difficulty. We are this far away from achieving our goal. And then the middle section when the harp comes in, even though we do have that big pullback, we're still moving forward. And what I find really beautiful about this is the fact that it feels like possibility, right? It feels like hope. It feels like opportunity. It feels like we are this close to winning this thing. And I think there's something really special. Now, of course, I would never say that I'm only a classical music purist because I do like all genres, really, for the most part, besides country. And one of the things that I really admire about this particular sound for World at War, Call of Duty, Call of Duty 2, like Brothers in Arms, you know, all these sorts of Medal of Honor. The real classic orchestral thing, I think, obviously, like for the time, and if we think of the 40s and the conflict in overseas and then the conflict in World War II being such a pivotal turning point in the history of the world, it makes sense to me to have orchestral music. It feels very pure for the experience, A. And B, this music really grounds me. I don't know. I'd love to know what you think about this, because to me, it's very much like, okay, like we are this close to being done. We have to move forward. And there are plenty of little things in there that I think are really interesting musically. I think the doubling of the men and with the chorus with the instruments is really, really nice. I also think that in general there's a pervasive feeling of hope, even though it is there's clearly a lot of push and pull, and I quite like that. It's a really beautiful piece, and I think it really demonstrates the desire to be done. Next up, I want to listen to Star Wars Republic Commando Vode On. I recently heard this on a Patreon live stream, and I was actually blown away by it. It's actually completely melted my brain, and it's so satisfyingly cool to listen to. Let's check it out together, shall we? Love the bubbling underneath here. I also love that we start with the chorus right off the bat. That's wild. You just don't see that. And isn't that so satisfying? We have a chant going on in the background with the snare and a little bit of horn in here. It's so militaristic. Swell in there, which is really beautiful. God, I love this. But the snare drum really is what sends it home. That military march. An unbridled force. And the fact that we start with this lower male section is so good. They all chant here. With the nice men tenors over top. And then we come together with the lyrics. But, oh man, I always forget how short it is. It's just so good. And it moves in a way that's like super predictable, and it makes you feel virile, feral, and strong and competent. And I love that because it's militaristic, but it's not in your face. It's not so loud. It's not so direct emotionally. Like it has a really nice arc to it, which I think it's quite nice because it's not totally dissimilar to the World of War track that we just listened to. And yet it is much more placid in that it's just a sort of march, but there's a certain element to this that's a bit nefarious, a bit dangerous, a bit uncomfortable, a bit kind of scary almost. And I think that that's because the Republic Commandos are a ferocious fighting force, and I feel like that's what's really coming across there in its stillness. Because how often are you thinking about the military and thinking about stillness, or at least in the military in terms of our context when we come to video games? And I think that's really cool. And next up is a Rise Up Dead Man from Hunt Showdown. You know, I love the humming in this. It's so good. So simple. This like slight whispered. Right? Isn't that fun? Just strong beats again. Right, isn't that great? That's so simple.
Rise up, dead man, let the gunshots ring.
Pretty simple melodically as well.
Shadows calling, let the gunshots ring. Fought the devil.
A little bit of counter harmony in the background. A little bit of deformity in that sound.
Let the gunshots ring.
has a bit of a blues element too, I'd say. Muted quality gives it a little bit of deformed sound as well.
Gunshots ring, rise up, dead man. Let the gunshots ring, let the gunshots ring, let the gunshots ring.
And then we end with that gunshot, such a pointed, cool effect. It's a pretty repetitive song too when you think about it. I mean, it re-emphasizes "let that gunshot ring," which is so emphatic for what Hunt Showdown's all about, right? So got a little bit of that whispering in the background too. There's a tiny bit of that discomfort when we think about the fact that Hunt Showdown's world is full of zombies and other oddities and deformities. And it's a really neat track too, because I think there's obviously a very simplistic approach to writing, and I think that's a positive, not a negative. The simplicity in that feels like it's very colloquial. It feels like it was something that was probably sung, and then it was just, hey, rise up, dead man, let the gunshot ring. You know what I mean? And obviously it's moving us through the plot of the game, but it does so in a way that I think it's a very cool effect too, especially with the humming. I mean, I mentioned this in so many videos, but humming is such a wonderfully expressive way to sing, but also very intimate and very quiet. And it can be about ethos or about pathos, and it can be about, thinking about life and what have you. And I think in the case of Rise Up Dead Man, what does that even mean? It's just cool. The next track I wanted to listen to was Race Against Fate from Metro Exodus. If you've never played the Metro series, you must. It is an exceptional series and a terrific story experience, and I enjoyed all three very much. I think starting with this has such a bleak sound, empty. Almost sounds like a Geiger counter. Sort of quivering of the strings there. Anticipatory almost. The re-emphasis of those accented strings is so powerful. Now we have fluid, long legato bowing there. I like this sound, this hitting quality here. It's almost like emphasizing it in emotion, right? It gets louder, more pressed with the brass, right? Picking up in tempo. You feel that? That energy shift as we pick up in tempo there? So beautiful. One thing that's really powerful about that track is that I actually find that it's pretty subdued even as it picks up in tempo. One of the things that this track does really well is it kind of leaves a lot of space in the sound, and it makes it feel like they're almost like we have no choice and time is running out, and yet I can't give up on this opportunity to make life better or to improve myself or to navigate this hardship, right? And one of the cool things about it is that even though it does pick up in speed, we always have the same sort of width between the heavy emphasized beats and the right. So there's space, and that space feels very, very, very like thought, like this is it, like this is the best I can do. There's a real sense like almost from the belly up where it's like I have to keep going, and it feels very personal. Now of course that could be swayed by the fact that I've played all three of these games, but Exodus has a real soulful desperation in it that's and bleakness, and I think we never lose sight of the fact that this world is basically uninhabited, right? There are wide swaths of land where there's nobody. You never know what's around the corner. Could be a vicious, mutated creature. It could be an enemy. But we don't know, because for most of our play, the open world is dangerous and wide and open. And I think that piece really does a great job of putting us in that environment and making us feel a sense of tension. One track that I'm pretty curious to hear is Beautiful Blasphemy from Dusk. I've never heard this soundtrack before, but I do know what the game Dusk is. Let's check it out. Whoa. Some deformed organ. Okay. More big chords here. Very big chords. Pushing forward into the electric guitar. I'm not really getting a rhythmic drive here. It's very wide. It's quite big, and I do hope it goes somewhere. Obviously, there's a sense of evil in there. I guess with the title Beautiful Blasphemy, that makes sense. Chorus coming in. clearing up. We resolve. I kind of hope there's a fat beat drop here. Goes sharp, okay. Augmented chords. More augmented. So this really didn't move around a lot, did it? In fact, it stayed pretty neutral. There was a lot of space here and a lot of just sustaining chords. And you may think, oh, well, that was a boring piece, but in actuality, there's, is it my favorite piece? Let's be clear. No, it's not. However, what I find really interesting is that this is very clearly setting a really intense mood. And that's ultimately what music is supposed to do. It's supposed to elicit a mood, a feeling, and emotion. And that it does certainly do that. I think that there's a wonderful mix here of organ, and it sounds like some sort of electric guitar, where we have a lot of sustained pedal tone where we're just holding things for an inordinate amount of time as we then shift chords. And that way it felt kind of Rachmaninovian, but at the same time, I would have liked a little bit more forward movement, a little bit of a sense of direction, but also there has to be something said for the fact that here we have a piece in an FPS where it's fairly slow. It's not punching you in the face. It's allowing for space. It's allowing for space to just sit and exist. And I find that to be really interesting. I think the organ is always a really unique and interesting instrument to fiddle around with when it comes to soundtracks. And certainly this felt like very hellish. And it also felt like someone was emerging out of the shadows, especially when we come forward and we stop muffling the sound and thrust it into the face of the listener. It's very powerful in that sense. It's cool. I personally would have liked some movement, or at least a tempo increase, but I could understand why this sort of, picturing like a giant cathedral or something, and it works really well. It felt like an ungodly place. Next up is another Team Fortress 2 track. You may have seen my previous video. In that video, I highlighted robots from Team Fortress 2. This is, I think, one of the more famous ones. This is Meet the Engineer. Let's take a listen.
Hey, look, buddy. I'm an engineer. That means I solve problems. Not problems like what is beauty, because that would fall within the purview of your conundrums of
Nice
philosophy.
blues. Okay.
I solve practical problems. For instance, how am I gonna stop some big mean Mother Hubbard from tearing me a structurally superfluous new behind? The answer? Use a gun. And if that don't work, use more gun. Like this heavy caliber tripod mounted little old number designed by me. Built by me. And you best hope not pointed at you.
I'm kind of surprised at how peaceful that sounds. It's like simple strummed, nothing crazy. there's your danger. Just unison movement. It's pretty simple. A little bit of trumpet in the background. Is that tuba? You know, fairly repetitive. But it's going somewhere, it's swelling. A little bit of dissonance. This is a dangerous fellow. The tuba's hilarious in the very background. Little trumpet accent right there before. That's a nice little touch. That is more gun, actually. So we saw the meet the engineer, and then here's more gun. Interestingly, I mean, it does feel like the engineers are very intelligent. Well, I mean, engineers have to be intelligent, more intelligent than me. It's very repetitive, and I don't necessarily think it works on its own personally, but what I do think is really cool is that it has this very confident quality and a very energized sort of, not in tempo, but it has an energized sound, especially when we get in that brass. The brass really punctures this more so than just the very lyrical guitar. But again, it's kind of like a very low-key, folky kind of piece that, you know, you probably just pick up on the road, on the journey of life, and then you get to the situation where you're having to fight against whoever, and that's what's playing. I mean, I'm probably pontificating a little bit too hard over Team Fortress 2, but I think it's interesting soundscape, and I think that you can do that for anything, you know, like really thinking about like, oh, well, what does this make me think? Well, this makes me think XYZ. Doesn't really matter if you're right or wrong, as long as that's what the music spoke to you. That's what the music spoke to you. You know what I mean? Let's go all the way back to 1999 with Unreal Tournament. I remember this. This is Razerback. Man, it's like industrial synth. God, that's so... Honestly, my biggest thought would be like, what does someone who was not playing Unreal Tournament 99 have to say about that? Beyond what I have to say about it, because for me, like, Unreal Tournament was a game that I played quite a bit of. And I wouldn't say that I was an Unreal Tournament aficionado. Same with Quake. It's not like I played both of these that hardcore. But one thing is for sure is that these were genre-defining childhood experiences for a lot of us, and I'm sure adult experiences as well. Like, these tunes, I never paid attention to music when this was out, and yet listening to it now, it's like, okay, it's a little repetitive, but like, given the circumstances of Unreal Tournament and like what you're doing in that game, it's like, I mean, arena shooters are just so freaking fun. And honestly, I kind of miss this like arena shooter experience. I know that there's some out there, but it's just like awesome. Like this soundscape, like it does exactly what it says it's going to do. It's exactly what you expect it to sound like. And for that reason, it's like, there's nothing to say but like, hell yeah. This music is so derived from the time that it came in, and it's so much fun to listen to. And for me, it's like, I'm sitting there and I'm like literally like a kid again. So like, what's it like for someone who wasn't born? Or someone who's never played these particular kind of FPS games. Like, what do you think about that? Because for me, it's like so like coded into me. Like, this is the kind of stuff I would sit down on my shitty ass computer and play. Like, what do you think about this? That's what I think about. Next up, I actually want to listen to Quake 3's main theme. Quake 3 Arena, I should say. This was a game I played quite a bit of actually when I was younger. And I remember having the CD. It's awesome. So short and sweet, it hits you right in the face. It's like it sets up exactly what the circumstances are going to be, and then you're just like, okay, I'm ready to go. Like, you can't start up something like this, the intro to Quake 3 Arena, and not feel like you're not going to chill and like take a nap. That's the opposite of what you're going to do, because of that intensity and the rhythm, and because it moves at such a fast pace, right? It's a sick theme. And then I want to move over to 40K Darktide, the Imperial Advance. And if you've never heard this music, you're in for a wild treat. And of course, the real answer to my question of do first-person shooter games have good music? Of course they do. What's so cool about the Darktide soundtrack is that I feel like it pushes classical music further into the next millennia. There's so much music in this game that feels like it takes everything that we know about classical music and just says, you know what? I'm gonna mess around with that and let's see what comes out the other side. That's like something that I feel and hear every time I listen to this. You've got the organ ostinato, you have the terrific chorus, and then you add synth elements and different kind of crunch. And really what ends up coming out the other side is this sort of like modern amalgamation of music that has been around for hundreds of years. And that's like so cool because we are like literally taking performance practice and things that have been and are a certain way for an extended period of time and then evolving it into like something new. It's probably the closest I've gotten to really hearing like an avant-garde, almost like modernist approach to music. It's very interesting, and it borders on like neo-baroque or whatever label you want to put on it. And for the sake of the video, that I'm going to stop there, but there's like so many more tracks and there's so many more directions we can go in when it comes to FPS music. I'd love for you to drop those in the pinned comment. There's so much more that I want to discover with you and listen to this music together and experience it together. So feel free to hit that up, and as always, thanks a ton, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.